Hello, Scrufftards. Welcome to the War Zone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And south of Pokrovsk, we are seeing a very precarious situation for the Ukrainian soldiers as Russia is about to complete a devastating pincer move on some Ukrainians holding a couple of smaller towns. So let's take a look at what that is all about.
Right, so let's start at Kursk. I haven't seen that many changes on the maps apart from maybe Russia having moved up to the river here of Pasel. Uh, but they've gained these tree lines here. It's not that big of a deal, and it's understandable why Ukraine doesn't feel the need to hold some patches of trees when they can defend this forest here instead. And has Russia overrun Plekova yet? A bit unclear, it seems. But I think that's about it. Ukraine is still causing trouble in Darino, holding on to Pogrebki, and there's still fighting going on here in the middle of Novoivanovka. And not that many updates down here as well at Kharkiv. And I haven't mapped out Kupiansk yet, but it seems stable. Russia moved over here towards the river. Avoskil haven't expanded. Their focus now seems to be to go from Svatove to Borova. They made a push in here. Let's see if we can take a look at deep. Whoop, zooming in. So this seems to be this here seems to be the focus right now for Russians, moving from Svatove to Borova. Otherwise, this here seems a bit static, right? As you can see, not much going on when we're moving through the days here. It's Russia's next objective appears to be the road here from Svatove through Peshotradnevne towards Borova. And but things have happened down here that I assume people are interested in. Hanivka and Uspinivka. If we take a look, as you can see, Russia is moving in and is basically surrounding these two towns, and the Ukrainians there. So why not take a look at that situation? If we take a look, I've spent time mapping out this shit, and I'm gonna regret it since when the front lines move and I'm trying to be somewhat accurate, it is a pain in the ass. But anyway, Anivka, and here we have Yelizaveta, and we can see how the Russians are pushing in. We can also see that these towns are surrounded by wide open spaces, farmland, that you don't really see on the other maps, and I understand why, because this is a pain in the ass to map out, where you can actually have cover and where you can hold and defend terrain and what have you. So as you can see, there's a lot of open spaces and not that many approach points for the Russians, unless they want to cross these wide open fields. And of course, out on the fields, you are prime target for artillery and drones. God damn it. What the Russians have managed, crucially, is they pushed into the eastern part of Yelizaveta, but also into here. So you have these wide open fields all over the place, but here you have forests where a forest farm. I have no clue what it's called in English, but they're probably growing trees to cut them down so that they can be used to make furniture and buildings and what have you. So it's industrial forest. And Russia has pushed in here, and this obviously allows them a lot of cover to move up to try and cut off Selivizavivka, whatever it's called, and reach Vasily High from the east. So this is good terrain to fight in. It's also good terrain to defend, but it gives Russians a lot more options than trying to push in through a narrow windbreak like this, right? So it makes complete sense for Russia to push in to this area to try and reach the river here, river of Sukyali. Russia's also moved into Romanivka, taking this small village. But there is the river between Romanivka and Vyselina and Yalizhevyetka. So it's not that big of a deal as it might look if you zoom out like this and say, oh, they're almost cut off. No, they're not. There's a river in the way. This is more interesting, though. This here is more interesting, where you have Russians. They came in this. You have Dalinye, and as you can see, these wide open spaces. So Russia came in this way, following the windbreaks here and in here. And this is where they made a crucial breakthrough in the Ukrainian lines, pushing down these two windbreaks here to reach the warehouses on the outskirts of Uspenivka. And they are now in the town along this street here. And of course, if they manage to push through the river, then Hanivka is almost cut off. You have a bridge here across the river, but still it will put a lot of pressure on Hanivka, and Russia can of course move into Uspenivka proper from this corner here. So this push is the big crucial one made by Russia in this area. Taking Romanivka, important but not as important as reaching Uspenivka. And also they're trying to push up this way along these narrow approach points here in the windbreaks, but as you can see, open ground. Now they have to make a push from the windbreak to a cemetery or something, and over here they have to make a push across the fields as well. So it's Ukraine they have a good spot here to be able to aim mortars, artillery, machine gun fire, drones at these points to hold the Russians at bay, essentially. Russia, and I'm suspecting this is why Russia is coming up this way towards Tredove. It's difficult to reach Tbilisi High from here, but if they can get Tredove, as you can see, there's not a lot of space in between here that Ukraine can defend. So if you take Tredove, you basically cut this road that is the supply line leading to Tbilisi High, right? So taking this town, you need Tredove, because here you can add they have managed somehow to reach this point here. I guess maybe made a YOLO move across the fields here, gained access to Tredove, maybe through this way, bypassing the ponds here. And if they can grab this small village, Ukraine will probably not be able to rely on this road here, this country road, to support Tbilisi High. So Uspenivka and Tredove, this is where Russia can move in and cut off this entire area here. And God damn it. So we'll see how Ukraine handles the situation. It's rough going, would be my suspicion. I mean, Russia is sensing blood. They know that if they can reach the river and if they can take Tredove, they have essentially captured these Ukrainians. Why Ukraine is holding on here, I don't know. It feels like they should be. I mean, we get the map updates, 48 to 72 hours after the fact. So Ukraine may actually have fallen back by now and abandoned these positions in following these roads here while they're still open. This road primarily, since Russia is on the road network here, right at this intersection here, as you can see. So if the Ukrainians want to abandon these positions, they will have to fall back through this road or follow the river on along either bank to avoid the Russians, and then fall back to what's it called, Konstantinopolske, and set up defenses over here. But it could be that they are cut off from communications. Maybe there's electronic jamming, so radio signals aren't getting through. Maybe ordinances on motorbikes or what have you can't get through. So the Ukrainians here might not be aware of the situation, that they are almost cut off. That might be why they're still holding they aren't receiving orders to fall back, or they are not aware of the situation and they can't make a tactical decision on their own behalf to abandon these positions because they can't hold them. So it could be that they are not receiving the information they need to make the right call to fall back. That could be why they are so stubbornly holding on, because they're not aware, maybe they're not aware of the imminent danger. Son, I'm coughing right as I hit play. What the fuck? Anyway, or record, I should say. Anyway, so yeah, that's the situation down here. But I mapped out the locations as well. You can see here you have wide open spaces surrounding Kurakhove, giving Russians not that many options and trying to bypass the town. They have moved in along the dam towards Stary Terny, but then you have wide open spaces again. Again, a difficult approach. They can basically only come down this way or try and move in here where Ukraine has the cover. So coming in from the north, it's going to be difficult for Russia. They also, look at these wide open fields, and Ukraine is in control of the windbreaks. They're in control of the cover. So it's difficult for Russia to move in a powerful force to then push south towards Dachne, because they have to deal with all the Ukrainians in these windbreaks first. And as you can see, Russia has moved through the cover available to reach Sontivska, but that town is cut in half. Ukraine is still holding on, and around wide open spaces, difficult for Russia to move on. They really need to push out this way, and of course Ukraine has amassed what I would assume a lot of defenses here, because they know Russia, if Russia is coming anywhere, it's this way. These narrow tree lines, windbreaks, it's difficult for Russia to push through them, obviously, to secure this gap here. And Ukraine is holding on to this territory, obviously, because they know if they do, they make it difficult for Russia to move to Stary Terny, and that means it's difficult for Russia to attack Kurakhove and Dachne from the north. Moving up here, same thing, wide open spaces. Russia appears to have moved into this valley, but so you have a couple of contact points along the way here, and it's the same the further north you go. Yeah, Russia made this. We're far up here now, outside of Shevchenko. Russia moved up here through the cover, reached these towns, and then made this sharp move south. And as you can see here, they're trying to reach this main supply route leading into Shevchenko, because Russia wants it for their own purposes. So they're going to be trying to secure this road here from Kurakhove to Shevchenko. And what they've done is come down the windbreaks here and this small creek and valley, and made it this far, but it's a slim corridor they have, and Ukraine is still in control of these areas here. But if Russia can push in here, Ukraine might be forced to fall back from this area here, and then of course Russia is in a better position to launch an assault on Novolenivka. But if this is all Russia has, they can't really reach the town or the village, so they really need to push out here to threaten these Ukrainians, and then they are in a position to take this town. But yeah, so if you, all the other mappers, they kind of like make a big line like so, and then they show this is Russia, this is Ukraine, and then you have contested area in between. Perfectly fine. It saves time, and when map changes happen, they don't have to spend a day moving tiny dots around. I'll show you what I'm talking about. If I want to make changes to all of these dots, it takes time to move this shit around, right? So perfectly reasonable, logical decision to just draw a straight line and say this is Russia, this is Ukraine, and you have a contested area in between. But then you miss out on these The reality that a lot of it is wide open territory that no one can control. And this, of course, guides how you move. Like here, I mean, it's difficult for Russia to move in here because of these wide open spaces, and the narrow points where you can actually hold ground and terrain is controlled by Ukraine, right? That will affect how Russia operates, and that will affect Russia's chances of pushing down towards Dachne from Tirny. Likewise here, where you have all these wide open spaces surrounding these this narrow Ukrainian hold. It explains why Russia is moving in here and why it's difficult for Russia to move in and cut the Ukrainians off, because there are so few contact points. Ukraine, that's why this is such a big deal, that Russia managed to push in this way and punch a hole into the town here. Huge achievement on this tactical level, which will affect one, two, and three towns and all the Ukrainians in these woods here, right? This push here. But Russia had to move past this wide open field to achieve it. And they have to move past all of these wide open fields to threaten Turdova. And you miss out on that if you just draw a line like so straight across and say on the right side we have Russians, left side Ukrainians, and they're fighting in between, right? So that's why I'm doing this. I think this is interesting, and it fulfills my need to try and grasp why they're fighting in a certain area, why they're moving in a certain way, and it also gives us the opportunity to maybe predict how they will move eventually. If they get across here, they might go this way or that way, and stuff like that. Like here, take a look at here. Here we have Sukhayali, that the river is named after, Sukhayali River. Russia can't really move across these wide open fields. What have they done? They moved along these windbreaks, trying to reach Sukhayali. Probably going to be trying to move this way and probably try and move this way, right? In order to reach the village, the town. And so you have, this allows you to find the natural contact points along the front line. Now, when Russia eventually grabs these towns, because I believe they will, it's gonna be a bitch to redraw all the lines and what have you. But hey, it's my choice, so I'm gonna have to live with it. Anyway, these are my maps, and I've been rambling about maps and points on the maps long enough. Yeah, Russia is about to cut off Ukrainians here south of Pokrovsk. Crucially, if they can push through Uspinivka to reach the Sukhayali River. Or rather, if they can reach this street here. This street. So, and again, yeah. No, we're not finished. We're not finished. Shut up and listen. So they pushed in to this street, right? And you have patches of farmland in between, where probably growing cabbages and what have you. So what can Russia do to reach this street? Well, they need to come in this way, right? Because if they control the intersection here, it's going to be difficult for the Ukrainians to move back and forth. That means they have to move across the train down here. They're out in the open. It's not as fast as moving along a road, and they can come in this way. But if Russia wants to cut the Ukrainians from moving here, they need this street and these buildings. So take the crossroad and come into the street this way, and push down here into these buildings, whatever they are, to reach this crossroad here intersection. And now you control the important part of town that cuts Ukraine off, Nivka from reinforcements, right? So it's interesting, real interesting. We can see the same thing if we go up to Kursk here in Darino, where we have seen Ukrainians push into this part of Darino. You can see wide open patches here in the middle of the town. You have forest and roads, and all of this guides how the Russians and the Ukrainians will move. So Ukraine will probably move in this way to fight the Russians, because they can't really push across here. And you have open spaces here, and they're going to move up through these buildings because it's natural cover. And then you have this open patch where no one will move around. So you can kind of see how the combat will evolve if you gain territory. Open spaces here as well. They won't be fighting here. They will be fighting in this narrow stretch of forest and trees right in the middle of the town, and avoid the wide open spaces. So when you take a closer look at the map and at the terrain, you can get a sense of what the combat, how the combat will move, and how it will evolve as either side pushes on. And this, now I'm gonna have to end the video because I'm just rambling. And so yeah, end of this.
Right. So well, that's that. We'll see if Ukraine falls back or if they get trapped or what happens down in that really, really dangerous situation south of Pokrovsk. But that's gonna have to be it, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. As always, go på marsch Ukraine and give them hell.